the K8 Plus that or the highly successful K6 Power. Why? Because we've already done the depth, or basically the distance from your device. And the further it is, the more depth that comes in. Now these two sensors feed in focus area and builds out a depth map. So you get a really detailed depth map in terms of what is supposed to be in focus, which is the person, and what's at the back, and then it combines this image to create this amazing bokeh effect. For Lenovo devices, and we are taking that journey forward. Stock Android, why stock Android? Performance is not just what you put as hardware. It's a combination of hardware and software. And while the hardware takes care of this, just going from hardware software directly to the user, most OEMs actually have their own custom UI, right? And that custom, what you've got is a faster chip that's more thermal efficient and better at battery life. Probably, again, like I said, a complete phone, and it basically tick marks on all of this. Now, how this happens? Now, there's a difference between the architecture. So normally, you see CPUs run a big little architecture. That means you've got 4 cores which are big, which are high performance cores, and you've got 4 which are little, so low performance cores, which are for battery. With the P25 on the K8 Plus, you've got 8 independent cores. So 4 of them are running at 1.69 gigahertz, so it's already high. And then you've got 3 of them at 2.3 gigahertz, and 1 runs at 2.6, right? And what you can do with this is truly remarkable. So for example, if you've got a very light application, say it's just an email that's come in. So what happens with a big little architecture normally is all your 4 little cores will get fired up. So they're 4 core cluster kind of is being used. But in this case, it only needs 1. So it doesn't need to fire up the entire cluster. Now, what if it was a heavy application, like you're gaming, right? So when you've got, say, a heavy game like Asphalt coming in, of course you need that power, right? And that's when all 8 there, and perhaps all 8 here fire up. There you start seeing a benefit in terms of 2.6 versus a 2.0 gigahertz. But the interesting part is, and this is what our daily usage is when you suppose are driving around and you've got a GPS, and along with that you're playing music, right? Now, these 2 applications might be too much for the little cores, so it moves it to the big ones. And hence, all big cores are firing. Now, this is a classical big little architecture. Now, in our case, you don't have to do that. It could be spread across 3 of them dynamically, right? So it basically manages the applications also a lot better, along with the fact that it is actually more thermal efficient, as well as better at handling the battery life, or uses less current in the process. So overall, from a performance perspective, you get a 2.6 gigahertz P25. It's an 8 cores built on a TSMC 16 nanometer. It's the latest process that comes in. I know some of you guys would be questioning, saying, but unfortunately, in most cases, and when you start going over the consumer reviews who've used that life hack and said, okay, I'm going to do all these steps, what ends up happening is they basically end up spoiling at minimum their SD card or the SIM, and they can't use it. In most cases, it basically blocks off the tray, so you can't use it anymore, right? Now, this is obviously people are trying to do this because it is a real pain point. With the K8 Plus, again, it's all about solving those problems and not making compromises. So in this case, we have a dedicated SD card slot. To make this, it actually took a lot of engineering effort, where this is probably the longest SIM tray that we've ever used. But you've got 2 nano SIMs and an SD card on a single tray. And the engineering part actually was that, when you look at it, it's such a long tray that it overlaps slightly with where the fingerprint sensor and the cameras are at the back. But the way it had to be done, and consumers asking for it, it just makes perfect sense. So what you've got is 3 gigs of RAM, 32 GB of storage. You've got a dedicated SD card slot. You can expand it by about 128 GB, and it supports USB OTG, which means that you can attach USB pen drives to it, or you can charge other devices as well. Again, point number 8, which is the battery. I'll get to it. Number 4. So you've got power 3. So we said dual cameras. We said stock Android. So from software and hardware, we just saw is more efficient from a battery perspective, from a thermal perspective, more powerful. Number 4, and which is again a separate pain point that's coming in, is better selfies. So how do we improve the selfie experience as well? And this is an interesting one, right? So think of a case like this, where you are with a group of friends and you're trying to take a selfie. Mostly this happens is when you're out in the evening, you're going for dinner, and normally the lighting conditions aren't perfect. So how do you solve for that? Well, you put a party flash in the front, right? You fire up, you've got perfect selfies every time. Now this is an 8 megapixel in the front with a party flash. You've got a f2.0 5-element lens in the front as well. You've got professional mode in the front, so you choose your selfies the way it should be. You've got a beautify mode, which can be auto or manual, so you can drag it up all the way to how pretty you want to look. And this one is an 84-degree wide-angle lens, so you can capture a lot more. So again, it's perfect for group selfies and also takes care of the lighting conditions. Right? So putting a front flash is again addressing a genuine consumer pain point. Let's move on to point number 5, which is screen. Right? Now this one we had to kind of take a look at K6 Power. Now, K6 Power was a pretty good screen, and how do you kind of improve it further? So what you get is a 5.2-inch full high-definition display. So we've taken it from 5-inch to 5.2-inch, which basically makes a lot of difference in terms of when you're consuming multimedia or when you are getting a little more immersive in terms of what you get with Theatre Max. It's a bright display, good enough for outdoor visibility. You can test it out later. The whites are perfect, so it's not getting that yellowish tinge that you normally see with the devices. And it's an IPS display, so you get a pretty good viewing angle. You get about 178 degrees, right? But that's not all. We just didn't increase the screen size and leave it there. We have to improve it further. And this is again based on consumer feedback. So the first thing that Sudhir read was, my screen gets smudged too easily. Right now we are a country where there are different weather conditions. It's quite easy to kind of have those fingerprints kind of sticking there. So the K Plus actually comes with Corning Gorilla Glass, so we've again stepped it up there, and it has oleophobic coating, which is resistant to your normal fingerprints and smudges. It's not going to be proof. There's no glass in the world that can do that, but it's going to help with the fingerprint smudges, and also the fact that if you have less smudges, it's better from a visibility perspective. That's number 5. Let's go to number 6, and this is an interesting one, which is design. Now, while keeping a device compact at about 5.2 inches, right, we had to fit in a whole lot more. So while doing that, we basically managed to get a really good blend. So you can see from an ergonomics perspective, so this is all metal back. It's an aluminum back that comes in a 5000 series. So you can see the subtle curves that come on all sides, make it much easier to hold and grip with your hand. Also something that I can't show on the slides is the weight balance. So when you hold the phone, how good it feels weighted overall. A couple of small things. For example, the small little rings that you see around the camera. Right? All of these small things kind of add on to make a device a much better looking device, something that you would actually want to flaunt. And of course, when it comes to flaunting, for people like me, you need it in Venom Black. Right? It has to be Venom Black. So we do give that. And it looks really stunning. So let me kind of run a quick clip to give you a glimpse of how it looks. So you've got a fingerprint at the back, you've got K6 Power, we had to kind of keep it here. With Dolby Atmos, what you get is this 360-degree virtualized surround sound, right? So perfect when you're watching movies, when you're consuming content. It just is a lot more immersive as an experience. When you're watching a video, sound, we don't really think of sound as too important till you actually start using something like this. And of course, we've seen how Dolby Atmos gets you a lot more immersive. Maybe if you can kind of maximize the video that we just saw. And why is this important? Again, if I go back, Sudhir said he watches music videos. So when you're watching that, this is a critical part. This is about hearing the whole picture, and it becomes extremely important to have good sound in a smartphone. Otherwise, it's really hard to say it's a complete phone. So because it has these great sound, and it's supposed to obviously, by that logic, do really well at music, we have added the music key in this as well. So we brought in the music key. Again, wasn't very clear on the design part of it, but the way the music key has been carved out, and that subtle red that goes around the button, again, it's adding to the overall aesthetics, while, of course, ensuring that you get that complete control over your music. But if you're not a music lover, right, so you don't really care about music, but you want camera a bit more, or maybe you use WhatsApp 24/7, you can remap this button to any app of your choice. Right, so you get that control. We're not forcing you to use this only for one function. It's pretty much up to you. But by default, this will come as the music key. Now, you've seen the full high definition 5.2-inch display that comes in. You've got Dolby Atmos. Of course, when you combine all of that, it makes it perfect for Theatre Max. Now, Theatre Max is something that is exclusive to Lenovo. Nobody else has this. And what it lets you do is watch any content, any movie, whether you're streaming on YouTube or Hotstar or Netflix. All you need is a regular VR headset, and you put this device there in a split screen mode, and you can view that on a virtualized large screen experience. So you get that immersive experience that is very hard if you're not having a Lenovo device. I don't think there's anything else that matches something like this. And we've actually invented Theatre Max with the K4 Note, and we've kind of taken that forward. If you haven't tried it, you must. It's quite stunning. I actually use it quite a bit for watching football matches on Hotstar. It's quite amazing if you see the entire football field from left to right. You're almost in the game there. It makes quite a lot of difference. So that's number 7, and number 8, which I promised. Now, this is something that most of us are not willing to compromise on, right? The battery life. Well, you've got dual camera, you've got this amazing performance, but if my battery dies, what am I going to do with all of it, right? I can't click pictures on a dead phone. Well, what we've got with the K8 Plus is a 2-day battery life, right? So basically, I could probably say, is it because it's the Plus, it's 1 day plus another. So you got 2 days of battery life. And this is also the system optimization kicking in. This is also the processor that we saw, which was using less current. All of those small things add on to give you perhaps one of the best battery life that you would have seen on a device in this price class. How much? So let me break it down. For example, if you're web surfing, right? Just from a web surfing on Wi-Fi, you get up to 13 hours of web browsing, right? Which is quite stunning. What about video playback? Again, now these are all test conditions. Your network conditions could vary, but suppose you're watching videos. You get up to 20 hours of video playback on this, right? What about music? Now this Atmos, I would suggest you get the Motor Pulse 2. You also have an option of getting a Bluetooth speaker from Flipkart. And then all of it, from a data perspective, you're taken care of from our partners from Reliance. So Reliance Jio, you get Jio Prime. So if you're not a Prime member, that's something that you can't really buy in the market, but you get it with this device. As well as you get additional 30 GB over and above your daily limit. Right now, the 30 GB is split over 6 months, but you don't have to be locked down by the daily limit, so you actually can go above and beyond. So you get a whole bunch of things, and also a complete phone at an incredible price. Also, want to talk about coming soon, we will have the K8. Now, this will come to the leading retail outlets or retail partners that we have across the country. It should be coming in a couple of weeks. Now, this one has a 5.2-inch HD IPS display, retains the premium metal design that the K series is known for, retains the multimedia prowess that the K8 Plus had. The dual camera gets moved to a single camera here.